Hello and welcome to whathifi.com. I'm Dominic Dawes, the editor of What Hi-Fi Sound and Vision, and I'm sat here today with our first test editor, Simon Lucas.
Hello.
And our staff writer, Mr. Tom Parsons.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking today about our January issue, which is on sale now. We're going to go through some of the bigger stories in the issue. We had a lot going on. I think first of all we can start with the news that of all our award winners in 2009, the first of them has been beaten in a group test in this issue. The Panasonic Blu-ray in a box system, which we
love before. It's the BT200, isn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, at the time, I don't think Sony could basically. Sony's new Blu-ray systems weren't yet available, and yeah, one turned up very recently, the E300, and it's just one of those things where it takes a lot of the Panasonic's qualities and it steps it up a level. I mean, obviously, it's a great shame it wasn't here in time for the awards, but I mean, it's a natural thing. Eventually, any award winner is going to get beaten. It's just in this case, it's happened a little bit quicker than usual.
Yeah, absolutely, and that tends to happen. It will happen throughout the year, won't it?
Sure. Well, awards is awards, isn't it? You have to draw a line in the sand at some point and say, this is the day we're judging home cinemas in a box, and we'll do what's available. Yeah. And unfortunately, the Sony turned up not really very long after that. Yeah. But long enough to not rank for consideration at all. Yeah, and of course the other thing about that is it does show that that particular category is finally there's some really good products out there. Yeah, yeah, stuff is getting more numerous now. I think more companies are prepared to have a go at this. As the technology gets cheaper, obviously the products become more affordable to manufacture. Yeah, and that Sony, it's the E300, isn't it? Yeah, is very, very good indeed. Yeah,
and I mean, already available for about 400 quid, which is astonishing, really. I mean, it seems it borrows a lot of the technology from the standalone Sony Blu-ray players, and as we know, they're extremely good. Yeah. And so it's not just the sound, the better sound that you're getting there. The picture is that much better than the majority of rivals. I mean, the Panasonic's still great, and it's you know, I believe it's staying on 5 stars, but you know, it's just pipped now by a newer product that comes out.
Yeah, and talking of new products, of course, the other thing in the Jan issue, another big story, a very significant and interesting product that came to us was the new Puresens internet radio, which is, I think, in a number of ways, one of the most unusual products we've had to review. It came in several times. Firstly, we saw a kind of prototype version, then we looked at a version that was done in terms of sonics, but the software wasn't quite ready. And I think it's indicative of new products that we're seeing more and more that have very, very that are very heavy on software, and sometimes that brings issues in, doesn't it?
Well, it makes for a long gestation period, it would seem. And yeah, we do seem to have seen the Pure at several stages of its development, and I would question whether it is actually altogether completely finished now. I would imagine it will need more software upgrades, which I think Pure are promising.
Yes, they've said that they're going to do
once a week, I think.
Once a week between now and Christmas, yeah, certainly.
There is that question now of when a product's actually ready, and we're seeing it more and more because the realm of the computer is merging with the realm of the hi-fi and home cinema. Absolutely. And so that's creating, I think, new challenges for companies who aren't traditionally in the software domain. But I mean, it's a typical thing that you see that we've seen with computers for years and years, that products are released and then slowly updated with firmware, you know, patched, as it were. I think the thing with the Pure is it's ready and it all works, and the interface is a heck of a lot better than it was when we first saw it.
Stacked against an old control interface, the sort of thing we're all used to, yeah, I think it's much superior. I think the problem that it has at the moment, until if and when Pure do get a proper fix on this, is that of its type now, it's not the smoothest you've ever used. It's not the slickest. It is a little bit grindy.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the important things. I think that is one of those points where you'd say it's almost not quite finished. There's that little bit that can still be improved. I think they're also adding things like new apps and stuff. I know Facebook's supposed to be coming to it, and that kind of thing is stuff that can be added afterwards, and that's, you know, an extra addition rather than a fix. But there is that question over the interface and
sure. I think apps is one thing. I think the interface is another. I think much in the same way that we were talking about awards a minute ago, and you say today is the day. Today is the day we do this judging, and we'll do the products that are available. If you've got to a point with a product like the Sensia, you say today is the day that it goes on sale. then things like the interface ought to be as good as they're going to get, I think. I can wait for further downloads for apps and other things like that, because that sort of stuff is always evolving.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much of the research and development you ought to expect your customers to do when you're in Pure's position with this.
Now, the other thing that was of interest, I thought, in the issue was obviously we've done a massive one-make systems test for hi-fi with 9 complete systems of hi-fi electronics, CD player and amp, and the manufacturer in each case promised us or gave us or recommended the speakers to use with. And some really interesting things came up from that, which really illustrate what we've been saying for years about system matching, didn't they?
Yeah, I think the big news in that, what you're sort of referring to, is the NAD system in the test, which essentially isn't, as individual components, the amplifier and CD player aren't the very best in their class. I think the Marantz is the best in both cases. We regard them as best in both cases. But as a partnership, they work extremely well. I mean, this is something that comes up. I mean, this is a yearly test that we do, and it comes up very, very frequently, and kind of reiterates what we always say about system matching, that you have to be very careful with what you put with what, because you can get better out of a component by partnering with something that works particularly well with it.
Yeah, it's true. It is possible to make a sow's ear out of 2 silk purses sometimes when you're trying to put these things together. You know, the 2 Marantz bits aren't a disaster, not by any means.
No.
But taken as individual items, they're the best things around at that money. But when you combine them as a system, as you say, they just don't have quite the synergy of the NAD pairing. And of course, NAD, as we ought to refer to them, not NAD. NAD will have recommended the speakers for their system, and Marantz will have recommended the speakers for their system. And there's a case for saying we should try and swap those speakers as well as, and change as many variables as you can. But if the company say these speakers work best, then that's got to be a starting point, hasn't it?
Yeah. And as well as going from you know, a test with 9 hi-fi systems, all of which are based on a CD player, the other big news, of course, is that we heard from Lynn this month that they are stopping manufacture of their CD players, which a lot of people have reacted to along the lines of, is this the death of CD, etc., etc. But I mean, it's interesting news in any case.
It is interesting news, and perhaps it could eventually be seen to be the start of the long, lingering death of CD, which will no doubt take years and years and years from now. I mean, even Lynn themselves don't see the end of CD. They can't make CD players pay. They're much more interested in concentrating on their digital streaming equipment. But they still have a record label. They're still producing CDs, and they still acknowledge that until downloads are CD quality, then CD is the format you need to put your music onto your digital streaming device in the first place. Of course. But yeah, they've seen a shift in what they're selling, and have just followed that, really.
And that's also, I mean, that takes us on to the other thing, because of course, you know, lower down in the market, in quite affordable territory now, we've got more and more kind of wireless streaming devices and these kinds of things, which are in a way representing, I don't think the death of CD, but certainly a new type of hi-fi system.
Yeah, I think the Lynn situation is an interesting one in that they're not arguing against CDs, but what they're saying is, rather than when you get your CD, rather than put it on your CD player, just whack it into your computer, rip it, and then stream it around your house. And it's something that a company like Sonos, which you're referring to, would certainly support. Kind of, we've seen the new S5 in this issue, which is their first all-in-one system with built-in amp and speakers, and they're kind of expanding their range. And I think they're the sort of benchmark for a sort of affordable and flexible wireless streaming. Yeah, and of course that February issue, the Logitech and Sonos systems are kind of like for like. So for the Logitech Squeezebox Boom, you've now got the Sonos Zone Player S5, that all-in-one, which of course there's a video review of online now, I believe.
Indeed there is. So yeah, packed January issue for us. Lots of interesting stuff. One make hi-fi, the Puresens Blu-rays in a box, news of Lynn stopping making CDs, and we'll see you back here next month for another vidcast right here on whathifi.com.